Welcome to the We're Good podcast, where we are celebrating the everyday brilliance of people working toward a more positive world. If you're looking for the good that's taking place around you, you've come to the right place. In the shadow of our nation's capital, there are kids who face crime and poverty head-on every single day. But there's a place, Horton's Kids, that's changing that story. Horton's Kids provides a safe space to study, play, and for families to receive some support along the way. Horton's Kids are twice as likely as their peers to graduate from high school. How does Horton's Kids do it? Come on, let's find out as we continue to share the good around us here on the We're Good podcast. We would like to welcome these wonderful people to the We're Good podcast. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Ahdoot, who is the CEO of Hortons, and Rahaman, Kilpatrick, we thank you so much. You are one of the advisors, the Community Engagement and Advocacy Advisor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We thank you so much for being here today. And we're just talking about Hortons. And one of the missions, and I think maybe the core mission, is to graduate from high school. Tell us why and how Hortons is doing that and why this is their main goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that we do it is through a pretty simple notion of commitment. So for every child and their family that comes into the program, we make a commitment for the long haul. So if you come in to Horton's Kids as a pre-K or a kindergarten, we're going to stick with you all the way through high school graduation and truthfully beyond. It doesn't end there. There's a lot of support that kids and families need as they navigate that transition. So that commitment is really the foundation of how we do this work. Through that commitment, there's a lot of trust that's built. There are deep relationships that are built. So around that, there are obviously programs and services that we provide. So we work with schools, we provide after school and summer opportunities. So there's always a way to tap into the Horton Kids community as you move through your educational career. And I think in addition to that, it's not just the kids, it's the families. How do you ensure that households are more stable, that they have the resources that they need so they can support their child's journey? And so we do a big part of our effort focusing on that as well.
That's awesome. And of course, you're talking about your kids in your community. So Kil, because you are one of the advisors of all of this, paint us a picture of the kids that you serve and that you see on a day-to-day basis. And you've been with Hortons for how long?
12 years.
12 years. So you've seen a lot of kids.
Yeah, I've seen them grow up. I've seen them have kids. So, I think our kids are just like any other kids. They're kids who have dreams. They're kids who, have goals that they want to aspire to, and just a lot of times there may be situations that are in the way that may make them feel like they can't. So I think a huge part of Horton's Kids is becoming that bridge to make sure that they're able to achieve those goals. It's having those conversations. Like Erica was saying, we work with the entire family. So I think the first thing is helping to get the parents on board, and helping them understand we're in a relationship. We're partners here, to help, raise your kids, and we're blessed to have that opportunity to, be allowed to be part of that. So I think it's like Erica said, once the love is there, the trust is there, then everything else just falls into place,
And you're both talking a lot about trust. Why is that such a component of Hortons?
I think the experience of a lot of folks in invested communities have a lot of distrust for systems. There are a lot of promises made, or there are organizations or people that come in probably with good intention to provide support and can't quite persist in that support. They come for a little while and leave. And so I think there's just a hesitation to know, where am I going to put who am I going to show my cards to? Who am I going to really be partnered with? And so I think that once you can get through that hesitation and people can really believe that you are there and that there's an authentic reason for being there, that it really is about partnership and agency, then people get on board in a different way.
Right. It's just like any other relationship. If you and I just started going out, we have to build the trust, and for a lot of the children and the families that we serve, there's been so much heartbreak in their life. They've lost so many things. They've lost so many people. So they build up a wall. So anytime we have volunteers, new staff, anything like that, one of the first seeds we want to plant is that it is about the commitment. It's about being there to break down those bricks in the wall, to let them know that we do care about you and that we are going to be here for you.
And you have talked about, you are planting seeds.
Right.
And sometimes you don't always see the harvest, but sometimes you do.
Right.
And some of your volunteers come in. You kind of tell them that, right?
Right. Because it's all about the biblical principle of planting, watering, and then the harvest, so you have to just figure out where you are in that situation. We've had volunteers who have come in and maybe you start with a child who's in 4th grade, and you're planting those seeds, but you may not be there when they graduate, so we want to make sure that they understand that part. And once you begin to know what part of the process you're in, then you kind of can feel better about it, because you may start and in your mind, you're going to make sure that this kid is reading on grade level by the end of the year. And that may not happen, but that's okay. We don't want that to frustrate you to give up. We want you to understand that you are literally just planting the seeds. Someone else may come to water. Someone else may be there when the harvest happens. And we have volunteers who have stayed with kids from the beginning to the end,
That's
so that they're able to see the whole process. And then other times people are just here for that. But once people begin to understand that principle, it kind of helps them, like, with the commitment, to understand that even if you can only give 2 years, that was a commitment, when you did do some things in that child's life.
Yeah.
We have volunteers that start out and then they become mentors, which is what happens when students get into the older grades, and then they'll join the board. I mean, there's lots of ways in which they want to stay involved and see those seeds actually grow.
Right.
Yeah. What ages do the kids start at Horton?
I mean, we serve families from 0 to 5. We don't have a lot of concrete programming, but we have partnerships where people who have expertise in the younger years really come in and provide those kind of supports and resources to families that want them. But we have actual youth programming starting pre-K all the way through high school graduation, and then alumni support as well.
The alumni support is amazing.
Yeah, we just had an internship program this summer. We had several alumni participate in that. One actually is now employed full-time from the place where she interned, which is incredible. Graduated college, interned that summer in between, and now is sort of on her way studying to take the LSATs and hopefully go into law school. So it's a really amazing long-term community that is built.
That's wonderful. And also, you told me that during the pandemic, you opened a new community resource center.
Oh, we did too.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Not one, but two.
During the pandemic.
That's great. So what goes on at the community resource centers?
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. Each resource center is established in different neighborhoods. Horton's Kids has been in Wellington Park for, I think, 33. Well, we've been there for 35 years. And we recently opened in Stand Oaks, which was about 3 years ago. And then our new center, Horton's Hub, that's on Hunter Road. We've been there. It'll be 2 years, coming in 2005. So each one is really based up to serve the needs of those communities. I feel like this isn't a one size fits all. So I think that's one of the great things I love about Horton's Kids is we really do want to, people come where their needs are being met. So we want to make sure that we're hearing what people need. We're making sure that the kids are being served and everything like that. So each one of our centers, there's a pantry, a food pantry where people can come to get food. We have a diaper where people can come to get diapers and, just different things like that. So it's always something that the community, whatever they've said that they need, that's what we want to provide.
That's wonderful. And are there certain programs, though, that run throughout for the kids?
Yeah, so not all the centers are the same size. So a lot of our youth programming happens out of the hub or in partner locations in the neighborhood. Various schools are our partners. In the summer, we operated out of Kip Douglas, for example. We've gone to rec centers. But in all of the centers, there's certainly opportunities for families or caregivers or community members to come down and get resources or referrals or information. As Kil said,
Right.
There's a food pantry. There's other essential distribution items. We are about to enter into our holiday season, which is amazing. It's where the sort of joy comes in, we say. This weekend we'll have Thanksgiving distribution, where we'll give hams and turkeys and chickens and sides and desserts. And in a couple of weeks is our holiday helpers, our holiday shop. So it's a big sort of holiday extravaganza. Again, that is an effort from so many people in the Horton's Kids community, volunteers and corporations and all sorts of people. So that is something that happens in the communities as well. I will say, Kil said it's not one size fits all, but we do really focus on a specific geography. We are in Anacostia, and within Anacostia, we are within a very sort of small half-mile radius. And there's something very intentional about that. Going back to your question about trust and how you build that, it really is being physically there and committing to a space and very deeply for a very long time.
Right.
Think that, people may have asked us along our history, why haven't you grown? Or why didn't you go here? Or why aren't you in another? And part of that is about that commitment and saying that we want to really go in deep here. We want to plant our roots and really show that we are partners. And so just what's happened in the last few years has been, tremendous because it's a new move. We do have 2 additional locations, but we are still 100% committed to this particular location that we are now.
Yeah. And walk us through a day. Like, what's a day like at one of the resource centers? What's a day like at the hub?
I mean, the kids usually get there between 4 and 4:15. The kids are bused from their neighborhood to the hub. They'll come in. The first thing they'll do is get a snack. They'll start working on any homework, help with things like that. And usually around 5 o'clock is when dinner is served. We make sure every child has a full meal every day when they sit down, so they'll eat from maybe 5 to 5:30, and from 5:30 to about 6:15, we're just working on different things. We have STEM, different days of the week. Today's Wednesday, so they're doing enrichment today. So we have partnerships with Flag Star Football. They're doing things with studio. We have dancing that comes in. So it's different things like that. And then probably around 6:15 to 6:30, we're getting them ready and we're making sure that they're getting back to their neighborhood safely.
During the day, while the kids are at school, the centers are open. So all 3 locations are open, and that's where families can come in and get the kind of resources and supports they need. There'll be a resource roundtable where maybe a partner will come in and do some financial literacy with a handful of parents, or might be another just sort of group to discuss any issues that are coming up, where there's just a place within the community for convening and things like that. So really we want to show that we're active all day long, every day, not just for the students and the kids that are coming, but also for the families.
It's wonderful. How about you two? What is your journey to come and to do something like this? Erica, you told me a great story about you and your dad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that every human has the fundamental need to be seen. And, for the majority of my career, I've always worked with children, and it really is informed by a moment where I really felt that to my core. My story was that I was riding in the car with my dad and in the back seat, and there's some chaos in life and just some fast movement and a lot of, transition and upheaval, and it was easy to maybe get lost in the mix. And I remember riding in the back, going from one place to another, and he just looked in the back seat and mouthed to me through the rearview mirror, "I love you." And he did it 3 times. He didn't just do it once. He really wanted to make sure that it got in, and it got in. And I think that since then, I've just, and maybe organically, I don't know, I've been a champion for smaller people, which then extended to all people, because as I started to work with kids, obviously the family is so central to a child being seen. Nobody external can really ever replace that. And so my work really morphed into looking at whole family, whole community. And so that's where I sit now.
I just love that. People should remember that. Just look in that rearview mirror, right? Because you're looking back, you're reflecting something that you felt, and it really guided you to this work. It's amazing for your dad. And Kel, your background is different. It's
my
the music.
It was about hip hop.
I love this story, hip hop.
I used to host Morgan State's radio show, 88.9 Strictly Hip Hop, and the seed that was planted was Montebello Elementary. Our neighbor in elementary school in Baltimore came to us and was saying the kids don't have a lot of school supplies. So one of the things I did was we had a show, Demo Madness, where local artists could come up and have their music played. But I was like, in order to do that, I need you to bring in school supplies for the kids. And we just got so much stuff, and then to be able to take it over to Montebello Elementary and talk with the kids, that was the seed that was planted. Because then, through I graduated, had some internships at record labels, and I was like, wow, this is really a cutthroat business. And I felt like I was at this place where it was like, am I going to change my character to be able to succeed here? And I was like, well, no. My mentor was like, yo, you should work with kids. I was like, I don't like kids. What are you talking about?
It really surprises her.
And now 24 years later, I'm still been working with kids. And I think it was because that seed that was planted of, I couldn't understand that. Like, kids don't have school supplies. Like, why not? And then it just kind of got into this work, and you start seeing it. And I've been doing this for 24 years because I feel like it's a puzzle, and it's trying to put all the pieces together. And it's like, it's not together yet. Every time I'm at a place where I think I figured it out, something else happens. I'm like, oh, that's something else we have to try to figure out. So, that's what keeps the passion that's still in me 24 years later to do this work, is because we haven't finished.
No, it's ongoing.
Yeah, I had the privilege of watching Kil facilitate a conversation with 3 students from our Youth Advisory Council, I guess last week or the week before. It's truly a masterclass. in somebody who can at the same time communicate such love and keep the bar held so high. And, I think that there's a lot of mentorship that Kil has given to people on the team to understand what that means and how that works.
He's always planting seeds, right?
Yes.
Always planting
That's
seeds.
really the goal of life. That's here you go.
That's great. And you told a story a while back about a young man. If you can walk me through that story. You said it starts with a chess set, which I just love.
It started with checkers.
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 Okay, all right.
My young boy Denzel would come in every day and we'd play checkers. And I would beat him every day. And I mean, I beat him bad. It was horrible. And no matter what, he kept coming back every day. And he just kept coming back for like weeks, months, years. And he never gave up. And so he finally started to beat me. And now I can't beat him, But I always tell that story because it's the perseverance that he had. And it's the perseverance that even us as adults need, So that's the thing that I've always told people, that it's not about what we're giving to the kids. I get so much back from them. Because I would have given up. I'm going to keep it up. You beat me like this, I'm good. Like, what's another game? But he kept coming. He just would never give up. And now he's learned to play chess, and I don't know how to play chess. So this is how he can talk trash to me now. Like, you can't even play me now,
Is he going to teach you?
Maybe. But I mean, I love that. And anytime that our kids, I use this with adults, when they're struggling, it's like, look at Denzel. He never gave up.
And what's he doing now?
He's about to go to the Marines. He graduated high school and he's about to go to the Marines,
Wow.
So yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And just the fact that he didn't give up, that perseverance, I'm sure you see that all the time, Erica.
Yeah, as a parent, I was just reflecting that that's the number one quality I'm trying to instill in my own son.
Right.
But it is. I think that really is how you can navigate just anything that kind of comes your way. I think there's a lot of conversation about the academic skills that we need, the math and literacy, and absolutely, and we support with that. But there's all the other softer skills that I think are harder to measure. The social emotional learning that really, I think, research is now showing is much more indicative of longer term success. Being able to work on a team, being able to persevere. And there aren't a lot of opportunities to do that in a safe space like there are in programs like Horton's Kids, where you can come back year after year. You don't have a time limit on it.
Right. And you talk about the parents, the kids, and safe space. Safe is so important for you all. Can you talk about what that means, what the parents and the children say that means to them, for this to be, as you said, they come in, they receive help, they get their tutoring, and they get a chance to be in a safe space. Can you talk about what that's like?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big reasons why we really push to purchase this church and renovate it and have a much larger safe space, which is the hub. Because there's a lot, I think when your nervous system is activated in such a way, it's really hard to learn, it's really hard to relax, it's really hard to let that wall down in terms of building relationships and trusting those around you. And from the conversations we've had with people about coming to the hub, it does feel safe. It does feel physically safe. There's nothing that we can do to guarantee that, obviously, but we do our best. And then there's also, the psychological safety, creating spaces within programming where you have mentors and adults and staff that really are there to nurture, to love, to hold the bar high, that thing I was talking about that Kil just has in spades. So I think that is part of safety as well. It's not just the way we think about it. But, and Kil's been doing a lot of work around that, thinking about, restorative safety, which is a newer term, I think, in the city, but one that really resonates with us quite a bit.
Right. So one of the great partnerships, and we'll talk about the Hortons Kids podcast in our studio, but one of the things that we...
No, tell people about it right now.
Okay, right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's go right in.
Tell them, let's go right in.
We were blessed through In a Perfect World to get a whole podcast studio donated to us. And I run my own hip-hop podcast, so that's like right up my alley. So as soon as we got that, it was like my mind was racing, and it was just like we have like the HK network that we like to call it. So we have a various... amount of the podcast. We have the HK Couch, which is hosted by myself and Chandel Richards, which is our chief program officer, where we talk about issues that are going on in the community. Our first guest was Yolanda Pinckney, who is who has been a parent in Horton's Kids for over 13 years and who has just been hired full time to work with us now, to talk about, it's been 6 years since her son Tay was murdered. So we kind of talk with her about just the steps that it took and where she at 6 years later, and the importance of counseling, not only for yourself, but for your whole family. We had F.A. Abada on from, the Washington Commanders. We've had Dr. Joe Richardson, who's an expert on gun violence here in the United States. So we have that. We have rap sessions with which one of our teens who we were talking about earlier, who was on to tell her story of going to Vassar College in New York and being able to graduate. And now we have HK Confessions, which is our teen-led podcast, which I get so much joy out of seeing them grow in this podcast. So, we have those networks going on. And then we also have Surface Noise, where I interview HK staff and HK alumni to just let, because a lot of times the families that we serve may not know who's working with their kids. So what's a better way to show them who's working with their kids than a quick 20 to 30 minute podcast to learn about who are the people working with your kids. So.
Well, that's great. They get to kind of peel back the curtain, right? And see what's going on. And if I was peeling back the curtain, if there's one thing that our listeners might really want to know about Hortons that they don't know, what would it be?
I mean, I think that maybe this isn't something people don't know after listening to this, but often you hear people say, "Oh, you don't just work with children?" And it's in our name, obviously.
Right.
And jokingly, when I was walking around the neighborhood about a year ago, somebody who had been involved as a kid said, "Why don't you change it to Horton's Families?" So I did bring it up in strategic conversations, but I think that is something that people should really just know and understand, that it isn't just the child that we are working with. We really are partnering with the entire family and the community, if you want to go out even further than that. And that's really important, because I think that is the differentiator between us and maybe another out-of-school time program.
Okay. And as far as needs, if people are listening, is there a way to plug in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can go on to our website, which is www.hortonskids.org, and on there are a lot of opportunities to get involved. We are always looking for volunteers. We are looking, and that can be one time or ongoing. We're looking for mentors. That's a really critical piece to our program. There's ways to donate and contribute, especially during the holiday season, but all year round, we've got opportunities to get involved.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We know this went very fast. We would love to have you all back and maybe have someone join us. Maybe play a game of checkers.
Yeah, you can get Denzel up here prayerfully.
We want to have him here. We would love to see him, and we just really appreciate all you're doing at Hortons. And that was a perfect segue, because we, of course, want people to follow and learn more about Hortons Kids, and you can do that on our website as well, we'regood.net. Be sure to follow us also. If you like what you heard today, follow us on Apple Music or Spotify, anywhere where you get your podcasts, because, of course, we just continue to seek out the good that's going on in the world. And, of course, until next time, we're going to remember to celebrate the goodness by sharing what you learned today, because we're good and you're good. So let's keep on going.